back to our channel. I'm Shannon Carter. I'm a real estate agent and investor.
I'm Jackie Hurtis, and I'm a residential mortgage lender.
I'm Sasha Quackenbush, a real estate attorney.
I'm Craig Jackson, a real estate investor here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm here with
The Property Queens.
We are really excited today. We have Craig Jackson here. He's a big-time investor and wholesaler here in Nashville. And we are excited to have him kind of tell us a little bit about himself and also talk about how to invest in real estate with, like we said, little to no money. So Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got here, kind of your story a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. First and foremost, I appreciate you guys having me out. It's an honor. So basically, born and raised here in Nashville. Grew up in East Nashville. Dropped out of high school, unfortunately, when I was younger. About 16 or so, I started working with a guy doing floors. A year or so of that, I kind of started noticing the money he was being able to take home versus what we were seeing. About 19, I put a local ad out in the Thrifty Nickel, which is now the American Classifieds, and everything transferred online. Started there. Within 3 or 4 years, we started just through networking, making connections. We started doing work for Serpro, which is fire and water damage remediation work. And initially we were doing just the demo for them, and then he started asking me to bid to put things back, so it just kind of grew from there. We eventually, kind of became into a GC position, and then started bidding out commercial work, things like that during that time. So that became, pretty much GC work, and then had a Creative Lawn Designs, which was a landscaping outfit, which accented all the commercial or the construction work we were doing at the time. Hardscapes, irrigation systems, sod installs, design, fencing, all those things. And then we started a commercial residential cleaning business, and that just kind of accented. Most of that was post-construction cleanup, same thing. And actually we were just doing a refi. Like I was telling her earlier, that we were really just doing a refi, and kind of through just the way life works, got introduced to the lady that was doing the docs at the title, and we just kind of hit it off. She actually had a son named Craig that had passed away a couple years prior, and I think that kind of opened the door. Julie Kuhn, Nashville Title. I think she's with Hyde Park Title now. And but she kind of just, we kind of hit it off. I think we connected well, and she started asking me some questions. As we got a little further in, she's like, well, you seem like a pretty busy guy, and that you're really, working pretty hard here. She's like, do you know anything about assigning contracts or any of that in real estate? And of course, no ma'am, I didn't really have any awareness or know anything about it. And basically, we completed the loan within about 30 days. We kind of talked multiple times over that 3 to 4 week span. And I think what worked best for me was having the 15 years of building up those contacts that were builders that I was always sourcing work or partnerships with. And so, at least I think you guys know this well, but relationships are a trust-based thing that's huge in real estate, and I think that transpired in me being able to kind of take off as quick as I did. And but basically, took 2 of those 3 contracts that were available at the time, shared them with a couple folks that I knew. Of course, I signed the contract, and we were able to close those in about 45 days. I made 16 grand, and from there, it just kind of took off. I wasn't able to, like I was telling her, you can have 15, 20 guys, and there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out here these days, and you could be making very minimal actual take home while running this big outfit, feeding all these families. So it's a lot of dynamics that goes into being a business person, businessman, woman, and I've learned a lot through the years, but that's pretty much how I got into real estate. And then from there, I just kind of started taking more toward the real estate side of things as opposed to the other things I had in place.
So you do a lot of wholesaling and assignments. Can you break that down for us, for the people who maybe don't know what that means?
Yes, ma'am. So assigning a contract is, in many cases, which can be done a lot of ways, but it's getting a property under contract that ideally is under market value, Sometimes we help sellers that are in very unique situations and they need speed. They can't wait on the market, and that's just their situation. So we find a need to fill that niche versus just trying to go after anything. But it's basically signing a contract, taking my equitable interest, and then we work with all sorts of investors from development, 1s and 2s to 12s to a 215 unit development we're working on in Gallatin right now. But we assign that equitable interest, and then at closing we get paid the markup from the initial contract price to the investor pay. And in many cases it's pretty transparent. They want us to make money because they know the work we put into finding that
That was my next question. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, ma'am. So usually in many cases, within reason, if the deal works, most good, developers, investors, they don't so much heckle on the money that may be being made in the contract process because they're too busy counting the result they're going to see on the other side of that development. And those are the kind of guys and gals that we like to work with because it's more of an abundance mindset versus scarcity, and we feel like scarcity, especially to be in the city we're in Nashville, Tennessee, and the way real estate's doing, we're all blessed just to be where we're at. So there's plenty of abundance.
So can you tell everybody what exactly you would put in the contract whenever, because I'm thinking for them, in order for them to assign it, you put something in the special steps, or do you put it in the buy side?
So basically, it's always our company entity, so Up Top Investments and or whatever LLC, and it just contract clean and clear Up Top Investments and or assigns. And from what I understand, of course I'm not an attorney, but all contracts, T-Rec contract, whether it's our personal contract, legally, unless clearly stated, is actually a signable contract unless it states in the contract this contract's not assignable. So you can assign your interest at any time for any reason.
Also, let's talk a little bit about the due diligence before you decide to put an offer on a said property you want a wholesaler assigned,
Yes,
and then also the due diligence after you've already had an accepted offer and now you want to assign it.
Right.
Can you kind of break both those processes down for us?
Yes, ma'am, and that's a super key kind of PowerPoint for me, and the way we believe and operate versus a lot of what we see in the market. That was one of the reasons I found it super valuable to kind of come on with you guys today, is because I know there's a lot of kind of misunderstood, if you will, understanding from agents versus slash either wholesalers slash investors. There may be some disconnect there. So to me, we do our due diligence. We know our numbers. We know whether we're looking for this project as a rental. We know whether we're looking at it as a flip. We know whether we're looking at it as development, new construction. We know whether it may be a HBR, which has a rehab in the front and a new build in the back. We know all these dynamics, so that when we go in and analyze, we're able to put real numbers to paper, and it really takes out a lot of the guesswork on contract time, and it really amps up your end results, and being able to passionately, we go in for the sellers to give them a result, not to just give them a contract. I say that all the time. There's a big difference from paper and seeing you at the closing table. So we find it super valuable to do all our due diligence, before we make our offer. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't miss things. Like I said before, we always do a high quality home inspection. So there may be things that come back, and then obviously we have validity to go back and negotiate and show clearly where we found something we missed. The transparency is just good, and when you practice in that method, you just get a ton of results, and you can help a lot of people, whatever side of the transaction they're on. I don't like the idea of, if you're not making 10 offers a day, you're not working. I believe that it's so much more important to care about the transaction, care about what you're doing, care that there's real human beings involved in this, and there's a lot of opportunity to make a difference and help folks versus, looking for a street, making 4 or 5 offers just based off what you think you see, and then going into due diligence and having to backtrack a lot. I think it actually hinders the professionalism as a whole and the industry as a whole, whether agents, title, us, whoever.
So are there any other misconceptions that you can kind of clarify for us? Because I know that us three, we've heard plenty of them about wholesaling itself, so.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. One of the main issues that I feel like is kind of across the board, at least that I see pretty often, is, there's this view that wholesalers maybe take equity from the homeowner, the seller, that there's not transparency when there's communication on that, and that there's this intentional stab to pull that equity without sharing that with the homeowner. And honestly, I think in many cases that could be the case. I wholeheartedly believe it depends on what your goals are and how you want to structure your operations. But I am here to tell you that there are folks that operate on a different standard, whether that's just flat out transparent communication that says, look, we're an investor, we are in a different business model. We are specifically, in business to make money, but we're also here to help the sellers that it fits the need. I think that's a good play. It really kind of leaves it very transparent for the seller. And then as well, there's so many unique scenarios. Like, I'll give you an example. I mean, we were able to stop a pre-foreclosure, literally 23, the auction was at 10 a.m. We got the word at like 9:37 a.m. that they were able to stop the auction with our contract. And then I think like 7 or 8 days later, we closed on the contract. The seller put 20 grand in their pocket, and we stopped them from bankruptcy. And so there's a lot of situations where we feel we actually can aid the market and aid with working with agents, because we do a ton of our volume with licensed real estate agents. In many cases, the seller actually knows they need to put 10, 20,000 in, and they don't want to do that to have to compete with the market. So that's a perfect fit. After we have history with these agents, they know, okay, we've got an avenue, someone's cash, they're serious, and they will perform. And so not every house is meant for us, and I would hope to say that maybe not every home may be meant for an agent. I think we work as a team to elevate the community and to create progress. And I think if we do that, I think we can accomplish a lot together. But yeah, there's a lot of stigmas, but there's definitely ways around that.
I think especially with you saying that you do a lot of your due diligence up front before you even put in an offer, I know that differs a lot from the mindset that I know people have. They think that wholesalers just go out and put a ton of contracts down just willy-nilly, and you're saying that if you do all the work up front and you are able to justify the numbers, then the outcome is that much more realistic and more firm.
Absolutely.
So that would be some really good advice for anybody who is looking to wholesale, maybe wholesalers who just need a little bit more advice from someone who's very, very experienced, to take the time to do the due diligence up front before you even waste more of your time or the seller's time or anybody else's time, investors, other agents.
That's right, absolutely. It's you're just being a professional, and in my experience, you get good results, and there's a lot of sellers involved with a lot of emotional scenarios. They've lived their whole lives in some cases in these homes, and I think it matters to connect with each individual person and their specific needs versus the monetary process. The rest will come together.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for coming on. I think you shed a lot of light on wholesaling. I know as Sasha's mentioned, there is a lot of misinformation out there. So if you guys are interested in all getting into this, or it's something that you are considering, feel free to reach out. I think you'd be happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to watch our other videos, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much.